Okay, so I also have poetry books, which I can pass out later, just so you can sort of like follow along here. Okay. Do you think our hunter-gatherer ancestors had misophonia? Anyone eating crisps is always going to set me off. Olana Tansley Hancock in the BBC.
Well, that was uncalled for.
Google says it's a glitch of the anterior insular cortex, brain like the box full of cords you have in the back of your closet. What is the internet? If not an overload of the multimodal sensory processor, in which proprioception feels like pain all the time. While writing this poem, they tried to sell me books, a $2.7 million New York City apartment, I am looking, and a planter or a tapestry, and bowling with shoe rental. Hey, that could be fun. And news, lots and lots of news. And also shame, but not to worry, 20% off to give yourself a little Valentine's Day self-care. My self-care is you, closing your fucking mouth when you're eating. I have a theory, I have many theories. It must be too much stimuli. Every orifice full of ads and tubes, and sometimes other people's body parts, which are also ads and tubes. So the perfect word for salience and arousal has to be mukbang. You see, I can put together long and complex sentences that are only held together by ums. So the anterior insular cortex is working, but DuckDuckGo is an inferior search engine. Hear it. Does all this content make life feel like one long and complex sentence? Wait. It also has something to do with feeling your own heartbeat in your temples where Jesus turned over the money changers' tables. I bet 50% of the population's heartbeat is thumping at exactly the same time. There aren't many other choices, really. You're either on the 1s and 3s or the 2s and 4s. So I think your chewing is actually just on the wrong beat. And that, like blowing in a tuba for 2 minutes, gives me, I can't say that word. I don't know if you guys can say that word. I screenshotted it only to ask the question, do you know how many bodies Google has buried in the backyard? The backyard being our experience, which is mutilating. Look at her, she's obviously dead, she's blue, her lips don't move. And that disgusts me because of the anterior insular cortex, but also so do chips. And it's just a glitch. That is the moment, yes, great, thank you. Cool, okay, so that is some weird poetry that I wrote. Obviously, it's pretty clear that I've been thinking about distraction quite a bit and how being online and being online for a long period of my life is its own kind of poetry. I mean, it's definitely not William Shakespeare and it's not Mary Oliver, but it is some sort of poetry. So the book that I am going to hand out, this talks about the intensity of being online all the time, and especially in the crypto space. So a little bit about myself. This is also in the book, so you don't have to read that, but this is basically what distraction poetry is. A little bit about myself. I started writing about crypto when it was only Bitcoin in about 2012, starting with American Banker, which is a trade pub out of New York City. Now I do mainly events, but I'm also a journalist here and there still. And this is the team that worked on distraction poetry. So obviously me there with different hair and very happy. My developer Fla, and then Eric Holmes, who made that disgusting video that you saw, which you probably never want to see again. He's AKA Ham Slime. But also in this book, there are a bunch of QR codes that also take you to some more of his videos. Okay, so back to the project. This project is about, it's the first iteration of a transmedia project or process that I would like to see more of in the world. So what the fuck is transmedia? Storytelling is a technique of telling a single story or story experience across multiple platforms and formats using current digital technologies. What that looks like in this book is scannable tags. So again, QR codes, but there's also Spotify scannable tags. Or if you were in an ebook version, you could think of links out to different places on the internet. As a journalist, this is something that I've been told to do over and over again. So I got a normal journalism degree, was supposed to go into print media, and I am in print media. But one of the things that they kept telling us is, now you have to be a video editor. Now you have to be a podcaster. And so I am very used to creating pieces of media that have all of the different mediums in them. So audio, video, words, links, yada, yada, yada. And what I found is that I'm also a book reader, and when I got to, books or nonfiction or even fiction, this was not a part of that. So especially in the ebook world, I don't really feel like they are utilizing the medium that they're on, meaning they're not linking out to different sources on the internet, they're not putting videos directly into my ebook. I say this not having read a huge amount of ebooks because I like a physical book. So I know some people are sort of exploring that. But yeah, anyway, I think it's not done enough. So like my big vision for this project is to write some sort of thriller or sci-fi book that links out to places on the web so that you can sort of be the detective and the reader as you're reading and try to figure out the plot. So that's sort of the idea. The reason I went with poetry is just because poetry, they don't all have to connect, which is just a little bit easier. So just an easier way in 3 months to create a first iteration of this experiment. Okay. And the internet is a really great place and also a really terrible place, but I just love this so much. I mean, one of my favorite things about the internet is just stumbling on these things that you're like, what the fuck is happening? It's just like, there's a woodworking network who wrote an article tagged with closets. It's like, if you ever have searched closets, it's not to read how millennials are to blame for smaller hotel closets. It's just like so odd. The internet is so odd. Okay. So that is a digression, which is also what this project is about. Yes, so I think my poetry is good enough that it needs to be stored all of time using decentralized storage. We're here with IPFS and Filecoin, which is decentralized storage, forever storage, right? You won't be getting 404s. AWS doesn't go down and you lose all your content. Things like that. And so the question here, absolutely fucking not. I do not think my poetry is good enough to be stored forever. But also, kind of I do, because I think it tells the story about where we're at in the world. So yeah, you can read through Walt Whitman and sort of understand what his life was like and what lives were like back then. And you can read some of this poetry and sort of feel the narrative, feel the time period that we are in, because it's chaotic and full of links out to the internet and just this like constant onslaught of news and ads and everything else. And so I think it's important, like one of the reasons I think decentralized storage and IPFS is super important is because it does, it adds permanence to our history, right? And sort of tells the story for all of time. So that we cannot rewrite history, or the ideas so we won't be able to rewrite history, and also so that we can learn from that. I don't know if humans are super good at learning from our history, it seems, but anyway, I think this is pretty cool. So that's why I put it on IPFS and Filecoin. Okay, so the other part of this project is in the back of this book, there is a QR code, and that will take you to an NFT. The last panel sort of set this up quite nicely. I'm gonna show you, since there's like a small group of people, I'm gonna show you on my computer how both to get the JPEGs, the NFTs, but also how to play with them because there is utility for these NFTs. FYI, these NFTs, I'm just going to airdrop them to you. So like I said, in the back of the book, there's a QR code, scan that, fill out the Google form, and then I have to manually send you 4 NFTs that you can play with, so it takes a while. So please, don't freak out if you don't have them right away. Like I said, last panel sort of set me up because the innovation or the vision that I have, the technology just doesn't support it right now. So I don't think, what is this? Okay, that's the QR code, not for the NFTs, but for the Discord, which you should definitely jump into because again, like a lot of this stuff is kind of clunky, and I have outlined basically how you play with this. But okay, so I'm also, I don't know, you guys can come closer if you want. I have to do this on my computer because I can't plug my computer into that TV. So the NFT project I created, it's on Polygon, by the way. These are what the NFTs look like. They are just words. You can see some difference in, all capitals of fuck. You can see some colors. There's some background changes, and there's also some font changes. This is not art. This is just me, like in Google Slides, creating a bunch of words because my hope isn't that, price goes up for these NFTs, but it's more about creative collaboration. So they're just really simple, but this is what they look like. Yeah, great. What you do is you come to this website here, and you can already see some people have started playing with this. I'm gonna go ahead and connect my MetaMask here. Give me 1 second. Hopefully this doesn't copy password. Okay, cool. So this is what your screen is gonna look like once I drop you the NFTs. So these are the NFTs that I hold here in this blue, sorry. Okay. And basically I can take these and move them into slots to create lines of poetry with everybody else who holds NFTs like this. There is a bit of sabotage that can be done here. So I don't know if you can see this, but it's green wherever I can drop this FOMO NFT, right? So let's drop it like here in one of these spots, but I can also kick people off of their spots already by just dropping it over that, and then it dumps it back into their blue space here. One of the things you can do is you can lock 2 of your NFTs, so you just hit this little lock button. That means it's gonna stay there for an hour and then it refreshes. So yes, and then the other cool thing about this is that these lines here, you can save them directly to IPFS. So there's this Save to IPFS button. We can come in here and see the poem. And then this here is basically the URL and the CID and content identifier, which is an integral part of IPFS and Filecoin. Meaning that this is pointing directly to content, whereas on the internet today, you point to a location, which is why sometimes you get the 404s, because that site has been taken off. So it's pointing at a location and not the content that was at the location. So now you have this content identifier, and it keeps all of the colors and font and everything like that. And basically, that's just gonna save that into forever storage. And then hopefully, once this project is over, I'm gonna do something with all those poems that people have decided to save. Yes, okay. So that's basically what you can do. One of the things that I didn't actually plan as I did this, but it just happens that this process is actually really slow and calming. You only have 4. So this is just updating, FYI, you're not seeing movement in real time, you're seeing my movement in real time, but if other people were on the site playing, you wouldn't see that in real time. It updates every minute. Initially, I had wanted it to be real time, but I'm actually glad, my developer was just like, it's really hard, we're not gonna do that. So I'm glad we did this because it feels like the anti-distraction, right? I'm in here trying to be very particular about where I hold my limited 3 or 4 words. I also have to play within the bounds of what other people have already put in here. And so it has a really calming effect, whereas I kind of thought it was gonna have like a chaotic effect. So that's really cool. Hopefully you scan the QR code and get some NFTs. I will be, and that one, definitely get into the Discord. That is not the URL. We were having some technical difficulties here earlier this morning. But yeah, hopefully you play around. I would love to see more poems. There's only 400 NFTs, 400 of these word NFTs. And this has 400 slots. So like nobody has done this, but you can scroll all the way down to the bottom and put your NFTs. You can start a new poem. I mean, I think what's up there right now is actually quite cool, and was sort of missing a front from, and now I put FOMO in there. Don't actually love that. Maybe somebody else could knock me out of that spot. Okay. And I think, yeah, okay, great. That might be it. Yeah, so I would love for you guys to scan the QR code, get some NFTs. Again, I am airdropping them for free, so you don't have to pay anything, not even gas fees. And they're on Polygon, which takes like a certain amount of, if you're doing this on your phone, so just to talk about the tech hurdles a little bit in the NFT space, if you're doing this from your phone and you have MetaMask on your phone, you won't actually be able to just type in that URL and then see your NFTs at the bottom, because you actually have to add the Matic network into your MetaMask, which is just like, it's a very complicated process. It's like 500 steps just to get to the one thing you're trying to do. And that's like partly what the first panel was talking about, where the innovation is there. There's a lot of artists in the space that want to play around with collaborative creation or creative collaboration. And there's just limits to what the tech can do. But we will actually be talking about that. Me and another poet will be talking about that tomorrow at 3, about some of the tech hurdles that we face. But otherwise, yeah, that's it. And I'll hand around some poetry books. Oh yeah, I can also take questions. Oh yeah. I think I can. Maybe not. I think it is in this book, but if not, yeah. No, I can't. It's not, because I think I backed out of my presentation. But I can totally give it to you. I can also send you a link. Yeah, does anybody have questions about that? I know maybe that was fast. That's to the Discord.
How long, how many little iterations or whatever, what did it take before you came up with the game dynamic?
I think I had the game dynamic in mind, sort of. Well, initially, like I said, I had started with the idea of a sci-fi story. I told Angie this as well, and then I was like, oh, scrap that. It's too complex in 3 months. And so once I went to poetry, it was like, okay, what kind of fun collaborative thing can I do with poetry and NFTs? And it just seemed to make sense. Oh, a bunch of people can have NFTs. They can go play around on this website to create their own poetry. I don't think I'm the first one to think of this. There's a lot of poets in the NFT space who are working around with how to find a new audience for their poetry through NFTs. But I think one of the inspirations was nouns NFT, which is like a noun. And then I think there's a letters NFT project. It's just stuff like that. I will say making the NFTs themselves took no time whatsoever. Words that were in my head, I put them on a Google slide, and then we copied and pasted the Google slide, and then made it into an NFT. So that part was pretty easy. The process of getting this to work, I wish my developer was here, honestly, because he could talk through some of this. But as I was saying, we had a little technical difficulties today. For some reason, I could not get to this website, and so he had to create this really ugly link, which again, it's in the Discord, so you can actually get to this, because it appears to be only not working here in this space for whatever reason. Back at my hotel, I could get on the website just fine. So yeah. Any other questions?
Any other questions for Bailey? Okay, well, thank you, Bailey. Oh, wait, you have some more. Sorry.
I was trying to put the words together. So I know you like working with different mediums, and I'm curious, what mediums do you think have been most successful in you kind of connecting to people with your poetry through NFTs?
This is the first NFT project that I've done. So I guess I'll like step back. As a poetry reader and somebody who likes the arts, I have experienced a lot more art and poetry that I connect with on a bigger basis, on a higher level in the NFT space. I think because those people, like I've been in crypto so long and I'm a person who's constantly on the internet, I think those are some of the same people who are writing this poetry and then being like, oh, NFTs, cool, maybe I can find a new market with this. And so it just seems that those overlaps of interests or knowledge bases, I meet a lot of poets that I actually really like their work. So yeah, and I think look, none of this poetry has to be in an NFT form, right? There isn't much. There's this woman, her name is Kaylin Iwamoto, which I might be butchering, but she actually creates poetry by interacting with blockchain technology. So she'll like put a bid in OpenSea, and I think you can put like a message in your bid, and that's how she sort of keeps a log on the blockchain of like these different words that end up making a poem. That stuff is really cool. I like aspire to do something like that. I think a lot of poets in the space, and I am not knocking this at all, but a lot of poets in the space, their poem doesn't have to be on an NFT, right? You could buy it in a book or something like that, but because there's so much hype around NFTs right now, they're able to sort of find a new market and get their artwork out there, unlike they've been able to do in the past. So I think that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I think what you're doing is cool. It's like you're encoding in such a creative way.
Thank you.
It makes the poetry really immersive. So I don't know.
Yeah, thank you. And so, some of my pieces fell off. Yeah, so these are all, also when I pass these out, please be careful, because it's just, like it's random things that I found at this hackerspace that I go to in Brooklyn. And so there's like chords that are, these little wires that, could poke you and stuff. So just be careful with them. Don't get a splinter, I guess. But yeah, I'll hand some out.